Well, good evening, EK Nation. How are you? Rob Howden here alongside David Cole for, a nighttime, essentially a primetime edition of our EKN Face2Face, episode number 60. We've been knocking these things out left and right since we got locked down for COVID, David. So we kept it going. We have fun with these things, and it's actually a really great opportunity for us to be able to talk to a lot of the players in the sport, a lot of the drivers. We've had some great stories on here. Talk a lot about the things that are happening in the sport as well. Getting really face-to-face, right? Front and center with the people that are making the news in our sport. And it really has been something that we've enjoyed. And we got lots more than planned for the off-season this year, if there really is an off-season, the couple of weeks in December. But otherwise, here we are. What is it? October the 19th. And a cool guest coming in when we talked to quite a bit. Andy Seesemann from the Challenge of the Americas will join us, David. But again, face-to-face back for another one here on a Wednesday evening.
Yeah, sometimes we got to mix it up. We can't always do daytime. We got to get used to the nighttime thing. You know, the sun's going down a lot quicker, and we got to get ready for our Super Nationals previews coming up, the Outlaps. That'll be live both on Facebook and YouTube, just like this, our face-to-face program. So kind of got to get used to the night thing and get amped up and get ready for what will be a busy month of November. But first, talk about, the exciting changes that are coming with the Challenge in Americas in 2023.
Yeah, we'll bring Andy in a couple of seconds. Let's preface this by the fact that over the last couple of weeks, they rolled out the schedule for the 2023 Challenge of the Americas, the 16th edition of this amazing series. And again, we talk about the fact we have some great longevity in a lot of the big programs in our sport. Something that really I hadn't had over the almost 30 years I've been doing this. Series kind of came and go 3, 4, 5 years, then they were gone. The Challenge, however, 16 years. It's been great to have that West Coast Winter Series program with Andy. But David, like we said, number one, schedule. Then they followed up with the confirmation of the racetracks. Of course, the news about Cal Speed's karting shutting down in Fontana, California. Lock that in. We'll talk to Andy more about that as well. And then the biggest news right now, which I think is really interesting, is a bit of an evolution with their class structure. One of the things we saw last year was not really basically zero participation in the ROK categories, the ROK GP classes. Yeah, the 125cc liquid cooled ROK categories. Lots of great numbers in the 100cc VLR, and obviously big with their shifters as well. They've always had great shifters. But some moves by Andy, David, to kind of replace those classes that are going to get dropped, the ROK GP Junior, Senior, and Master.
Well, that's the one thing about the sport of karting. It's always evolving. It's never the same thing. We've kind of gone back to 100cc. Well, 100cc racing used to be dead. It used to be nowhere. You could easily buy a Yamaha for $200 anywhere you go. And now, with the new production of the 100cc categories by the manufacturers, it's kind of regrown that. Well, now it kind of taken away from the 125 side of things in terms of single speed competition, especially ROK Cup USA. So
on
now
the West
Andy's,
Coast.
Especially on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so Andy's getting a little creative and looking at a new opportunity that FIA is presenting, and something that it could be a positive moving forward. Obviously has a huge ceiling. Lots of potential. It's a matter of if the industry and the competitors get behind it, and also getting junior drivers back to grabbing gears. That's something we have.
So let's put the news out. There's the breaking news. Number one, the CIK FIA coming out with a new OK-N category, essentially the OK class, junior and senior, but a national level program with restricted RPMs. And then, of course, this ROK Shifter Junior class, which they announced, which was breaking news. We haven't seen junior shifters for a number of years. You and I both, Dave, me, of course, in the late 90s and early 2000s, you when you came with me, 80cc Junior was a huge thing for the longest time. You look at the drivers that came through that program, IndyCar drivers like Ray Hall and Hinchcliffe and Wickens, and you just keep going through the names of the guys that came through that program who were just absolutely tremendous drivers. So I'm really excited because you and I talk to young drivers every once in a while. Let's say they're 14 or 15 and they jump out of a single speed into a shifter kart for the first time. And inevitably what they keep saying is, I don't want to drive a single speed again. I always want to drive the shifter. It's just so much fun.
It's the cool factor, Rob. Everybody's looking at the shifter category, especially at Challenge in the Americas, where you have the Kyle Wicks, the Hunter Pickett's, Ron White's still doing it. You got who's the
Ryan
other?
Martin with him.
Ryan Martin as well too, and I'm trying to think of the other GFC driver. Why can't I think of his name right now?
Which one?
Oh my gosh,
Kyle Dupel?
No. We used to race with RPG. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of it? I know Andy's trying to tell me.
I can't either. Right? Bring Andy in. He'll tell us. Let's bring Seesemann. He can help us out.
Jacob Gulick.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, you got Hannah Greenmeyer. You got a lot of.
It's the studs in the class, like the superstars in the class are coming out to this program. It's a beautiful thing about challenge. Let's bring Andy in. He's in the back there right now, sweating because he's waiting to tell us stuff. Gulick. Andy, thanks for joining us on the 60th episode of Face2Face. We appreciate it. As we prefaced in the preview there, dude, there's a lot of excitement right now. That was it kind of we hadn't talked. I didn't know it was coming. Email comes into us. I'm like, man, those are two really good ideas. Give me the motivation. What fueled the concept of thinking about the OK-N class? Let's start with that.
Well, one, I rarely have good ideas, so to have two right in a row is pretty amazing. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, right now, by the way, hi everybody. You know, the 1, 2, 5 tag classes are pretty quiet on the West Coast. Let's be honest. I mean, we started with like 8 or 9 at Tucson in the Masters class, and by the end there was a handful, right? And then we had 0 participation. I mean, 1 or 2 people in junior and senior. So really, the class is done, right? Yeah. You look at whether it's X31, GP, whatever. Just on the West, it's just not like it is on the East Coast. But you look at the numbers on the East Coast, and the 100cc racing still outpaces the 125 right now. I mean, I think Eric Jones's race had almost double KAs than he did in X30s, right? Correct. So it's going the same way. I mean, unfortunately, just like with fashion and music, trends start in California and move east. So, I mean, watch out, it's coming, right? So, I mean, the bottom line is you have to, just like David said, every several years, few years, 5 years, whatever, the sport evolves, and we have to be ahead of the curve. Being behind it is the worst thing possible. So, looking at the options, I mean, I was really excited. I wanted to actually, I talked to Vortex a year ago about trying to do the regular OK class, and they were that's a European factory. Let's stay away from that, right? Yeah. And then early this summer, the FIA introduced the OK-N that they wanted to introduce, and I went, now it's time.
Yeah.
I mean, you've talked about it. You guys have had a blurb on it in an article or two. I mean, it's the OK engine, which is the single speed, direct drive, water cooled package, but it's a little bit detuned. I mean, the OK is like Formula One, right? I mean, it's wide open. The OK-N, they got the rules set a little bit further down. Now it still allows guys to really tune the engine. I mean, they can port the engine. We basically are going to tech to the fiche. There's no profile gauge on the head. There's no, you know what I mean? Sorry about that little weird thing, but but it's going to become a little bit of an engine builder's class. It's certainly going to become a driver's class, and I'm excited to see what we can do with it.
And it's two interesting things you bring in, right? Obviously, the OK-N and the junior shifter. It's two things that we've seen in years past. Like you go back, as I said, to ADCC Junior, but you also go back to the ICA days, and before that, Formula A, where people want the direct drive, right? I think it's going to be something that'll draw a lot of guys that want that purity of the sport. That's one of the things. Direct drive is going to be exciting, I think.
For sure. And then on the other hand, like you talked about the junior shifter, people have been talking about it. I mean, especially with as much as I hate to cater to those that want to leave the sport. There's a lot of dads that want to get their kids into car racing and so on. And the best way to get them prepped for that is to get them banging gears when they're old enough to do it. I mean, I remember the 60cc Kawasaki 8-year-olds, right? Which was a little different, but so I don't think 12 is too young to start. I mean, Vortex has come up with a restrictor. They're on the way. We'll develop that. And I think that'll start to grow as well. I mean, there's enough requests out there. There's enough interest that it'll become a good class. It's just going to take a couple of people wanting to get behind the wheel and trying it, right? Once they try it, some of these kids are going to want it. They're going to want to do it for sure. Well, look at the guys out there. Let's be fair. The top 2 teams that come into my challenge as far as shifter karts go are Ron White Racing and GFC, Gary Carlton. So you don't think those guys have, shifter karts with, have a ROK shifter on one of their chassis that they can bolt the restrictor on and put a smaller seat in and see if the kid wants to do it. That's it. I mean, there's definitely opportunities. I mean, there's other teams that support it. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying that they're 2 very big, high profile teams that focus shifter oriented teams as well. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're run by 2 drivers that made their bones, on a 6-speed car.
Super Nationals winners. That's right. Dave, what you got something?
Yeah, I want to kind of go back to the OK-N for a little bit. What has been kind of the feedback offline, be it phone calls, be it emails, or just general feedback from not only maybe competitors, but obviously race teams that come to the challenge, but also engine builders as well too.
Overwhelming support. Jesus from P1, Seth Nash, Federico Aquini from Ital Course, Gary Carlton even reached out to me. I mean, it's overwhelmingly positive. There's a couple guys that posted stuff online that were negative. That's our sport, and that's social media, right? I mean,
that's right. That's it.
And I'm introducing it in a way that we can have a little bit more control over it to kind of help out, like we talked about, right? It's,
go into that. That's one of the things I think that's key. Let's. So the OK-N program is designed for multi-manufacturer racing. Everybody, here's the formula. Build an engine to this formula, you can run, right? You're gonna stick in this initial year, and this was actually in the press release as well, that you're gonna stick with the Vortex for the opening year. Give us the reasoning behind sticking with one manufacturer for the year. You did say in the release that plan is to open it up, of course, at that point. What's the reason for Vortex in year one?
One is, people are going to look at me and go, "Oh, well, you sell Vortex, so you just want to make the money." Yeah, the $100 I make an engine is gonna make me retire. Yeah. No, realistically, it's simply to have enough parts. We know our sport, we know the naysayers, we know, so without being nice, somebody would go out and buy a engine X. Right, they'd get it from somebody in Europe. They'd bring it in, they'd blow it up the third session, and then they'd blame me that they didn't have parts and I'm running a formula that wasn't supported.
That's true.
At least with the Vortex, we can make sure that we would have enough parts for everybody. We can have the pistons and all just the parts that you need to run these properly, right? Like any engine.
Yeah. And the thing I would see happening as well. Let's say you go to 10, to 12, to 14. All of a sudden, some of these other teams or teams/importer of the engine that wasn't supporting you in the past, now they're like, okay, this class has some momentum right now, right? They've hit critical mass. I'm coming to all the races. I'm coming to all the challenge races next year. We'll have our trailer full of parts with whatever engine package that may be.
Right. This is the very first time since 2003 we're having a direct drive European format, right? I mean,
David, when was the last Stars of Karting ICA? Probably 5 or 6.
Well, right? You got to go Championship Karting International, CKI. That was 20, with the KF, because that was direct drive as well too. Was it? Yeah. Correct. KF was direct drive. I can't remember it because we were never there. I can't remember.
All right,
last couple of races.
So 2010, I believe, was the last year.
Yeah, but let's say 3 or 4 was the last time that we saw a field of 30 ICAs.
Yeah, probably 2007, 2007 was probably about the last year, maybe 2008, because I think we still were going to Las Vegas Motor Speedway with Stars of Karting. We still had 20 to 30 ICA guys there, and then they made that transition.
It's still 15 years.
Yeah,
it's been 15. Yeah, less 15, right? Yeah, and that's simply because what's gotten popular is the monobrand trophies. Rotex started it, and then IME, and then Vortex with the ROK. So I mean, there are certainly value in that. But once again, just trying to evolve, just trying to stay ahead of the curve instead of behind it.
Well, the other thing you said in the press release was that they're still in the homologation process. Like, are any of the manufacturers like mass producing these engines right now?
No.
So that's also another.
They still everything that they produced was to get through homologation, and I don't know all of the rules, but what they give there may not be exactly what's going to come out to production, right? It may be they may not have the bearing and the right bearing in it or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm not insulting the program. I'm just saying that it's going to take a while, especially with what's going on worldwide, to get the production ramped up. So,
that's just it. You guys start at the beginning of February. And we're almost into November. It's going to be kind of hard to make sure you have, not like you said, parts, but also just engine period in the next 3 months from all 4 manufacturers that are going to be part of this program.
Right. Yeah. So it's certainly dependent on all those things happening, right? I mean, God, my worst fear would be the boat sinks on the way over here with all the engines.
Yeah.
We don't need another Suez Canal, right?
All right. Well, so we got things underway. We started with a couple of classes. Obviously, the other categories are back. Primarily, of course, the shifter classes. Your VLR 100 classes are going to be strong as well, junior, senior, and masters. One of the other things I want to touch on, just to give you a chance to talk about it a little bit, essentially the micro rock category being dropped, but not really dropped. It's not like there's not an opportunity for those drivers to race, because essentially you've opened up the age limit for the mini rock category, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, unfortunately, and it's simply just a fundamental economic reason, right? When you get your child in at 7 years old, you focus on one program, right? So micro has been very soft for us, right? A lot of people buy the other engine products, so they just haven't made the transition. I can remember I've talked to dads and like, oh, we just can't do two engines. It's just too complicated. I'm like, these engines are so similar. I can remember racing IKF when you had to have 3 Comers, 3 Yamahas, and 3 KPV1s in your trailer if you wanted to compete at IKF in Region 7, right? So and those were very, very different from one another, right? One was a can, one had a pipe, one had a pull start. It's like, good Lord. But, micro's been soft for us. So, you were there at our races. What we did with the micros this whole year is we ran them, scored as micros, but we ran them as minis, as a mini configuration, because there wasn't enough time in the day to separate them, and there wasn't enough critical mass in the class to separate them. So we ran them all together. And by running them as mini, we didn't artificially slow down the micros by restricting them, right? The class sorted out. In fact, was it 2 years ago, 1 year, where a micro actually won the class as a mini? Wasn't it Sarfati that
might
won?
have been? Yeah. Case and Hodge was top 10.
Hodge was right up there
this year.
Yeah, he was racing for overall podium.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Look at a kid who just moved back east, right? Ashton Woon, who races as a micro back there, but races a mini with us, and was in the championship till the last lap of the last day. So Porter is another one that races with us.
Yeah.
So, there's kids that are good enough. They're good enough to do it.
Well, and essentially, just go back to 10 years, like we talked about, to 2010, 2011. It was tag cadet anyways. There wasn't mini and micro.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so all those dads who want to move their kid up right away, this is the
There you
opportunity,
go.
right? 8 years old,
You're
go
there.
ahead.
And what
We
you say
did
about
this
the
for
ages is
we
correct.
did this for you.
Yeah.
Because exactly. Micro was a 7-year-old attained age class, which means you had to physically be 7 to start racing. Mini is an 8-year-old competition age class. So really, you could be 7 turning 8 during this year. So literally, it's only somebody with a birthday between January 1 and February 3rd of 2014, or no, 2016.
Yeah,
right?
16.
15. I don't know, whatever the day,
15,
whatever the year.
15, yeah, 15.
So if your birthday is between January 1 and February 3rd of 2015, I'm sorry, you can't race.
That's it.
There has to be a line, and this is about the narrowest class like ever.
That's true. Very true.
So yeah, there's going to be plenty of opportunity, and as I said in the press release, we're going to come up with a special prize for the competitor with a birthday, in a certain range. If they win the championship, good for you, 8-year-old, right? And if you finish 7th, but you're the kid that fits that age bracket, you're going to get a special prize. So fundamentally, what we did this year, just changing the way the rules are, right?
Once again, talking to Andy Seesemann for the Challenge of the Americas here, episode 60 of our EKN Face2Face. Andy, we talked about the new categories you're bringing in: OK-N, ROK Shifter Junior, losing the ROK GP categories, bringing the mini and micro ROK together. Let's talk about the tracks a bit, the dates as well. Let's talk about the schedule and the tracks. Bring them all together, because that's something that's changed a little bit as well. No longer starting the season in January. You're going to start the first weekend of February, go first weekend of March, then the second weekend of April. So pushing it back a little bit. Before we go into the tracks you're actually using, one of the reasons why, obviously with the loss of Cal Speed, what was the reason for moving it deeper into the winter, I guess?
A couple things. One, we're literally in the first two are only 1 week later. It's not like we moved from March to May. Back, this story, but we're going to talk about it, right? Back a few months ago in the summertime, probably June, I reached out to Mark Coates, Tom Kutcher, and Garrett Potter, and I said, hey, we all have these races and we all fall on each other a lot of times. So can we just, for once, sit down? And everybody everybody compromised. I'm not going to say that, I was very happily surprised that nobody put their fist down and said, no, we have to be this date. Everybody moved a date or two. It allows somebody, what it really allows, because I don't know, there's only a few people that can afford to race every single race on the planet, but it allows these teams to earn their living. Some of them do a satellite West Coast, satellite East Coast, or put their main show one way or the other, right? But there are zero conflicts, or within the Winter Tour, the SCUSA Winter Program, the USPKS, and Challenge of the Americas, which has never happened before, right? It allows me and Garrett, because we share some staff, to have a weekend break between. Because the worst thing is somebody flies home on a Monday from Florida and they got to get on a plane on Thursday. A lot like you guys do sometimes. Sorry.
I do that twice a year. I mean, half the year, by the way.
I know. But you know how much that's right. This is your job. We rely on people that this isn't their job. This is their hobby job, right? So they're literally like, it's terrible.
They're going home Sunday nights, right? Sunday night to get home for work on Monday, and then they're
trying to. And a lot of times you can't, right? I mean, you can't think of. I mean, Tucson's a difficult place to get out of. It's hard. I can't get. I mean, I'm flying half my staff home at 6 a.m. on Tucson, so they can be at their desk at 9.
Yeah.
Right. Angel flies out of Tucson, flies to LAX to catch a red eye all the way back to San Antonio to get home at 9 o'clock. I can't get him home that early, right? So that helped. And then the last several years, or at least a couple years, our race and the Texas Sprint Series has fallen on each other because they use it as a warm up for NOLA.
Oh yeah.
And they've been on top of each other. Now there's that conflict's gone too, which is why I moved so much later, right, into April. What's wrong, David? You're laughing.
No, it's so much farther because
it is.
I mean, typically, I mean, you used to be in April, if I recall. We
used to be Final Four weekend. A lot of times we were in Final Four weekend, right? Which is NOLA this year, right? I think. Yeah. And then the next weekend's Easter, so I can't be on that weekend. So I bumped it. So unfortunately, I'm on Long Beach Grand Prix. Sorry, IndyCar. I'm gonna have to steal your thunder, but we'll be in Sonoma.
Yeah, full EKN coverage as well. I won't be in Long Beach. Screw that. I'm going to Coda. I'm going to Coda.
Well, not in March.
I know.
Race, but I did book a guest announcer today.
Yeah. Uh-oh. You want to drop that here?
Yes. Mike Smith.
Mike Smith. Yes. Oh. Good. That's good. He'll be thrilled. That's awesome. Mike did a great job with us last year at the Super Nats. Obviously, we know Mike.
It's just very difficult working with him.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Wait till you got a room with him.
Oh,
that's true. That's true.
Put him with Sean. Put him with Sean. They can handle each other.
Let's talk tracks because you mentioned Sonoma.
Let's talk trash.
Tracks.
Like, all right.
Track. We're already talking trash. Tucson, Phoenix, Sonoma. Obviously, I think the Cal Speed bump was something that was big. There was right before COVID. This is the craziest thing. Right before COVID, Challenge was on this meteoric upward run, right? Everybody's jumping on board. Everybody's excited. We're at Cal Speed. It's 143 entries. This is it. We're rocking. And then, of course, March COVID hits, and we got 2 years of absolute shit show. The COVID bump. I mean, the Cal Speed bump was always something that was big. Now Cal Speed going away. It's not going to be that big of a hit, to be honest, to the Challenge. It isn't, right? Because you guys can go anywhere and people will come racing. But it's tough not to be able to go to Cal Speed. And overall, what are your thoughts on just that kind of hurdle you had to jump over?
I've always had 4 tracks. I mean, aside from the very early Challenge where it actually brought me back to the very first year because our very first Challenge race ever was supposed to be at Moran Raceway. And Rocky Jr. called me like December 10th and said, by the way, we sold, we're done December 31st. Go find a new place. So at least I had, 3 months more notice than that this time. Right.
Yeah.
So I moved it to Willow, right? And then obviously that year I did the last race ever at Xplex. I think I did one more time at Willow. But fundamentally, the Challenge has only been on 4 tracks for 14 of the 16 years, right? Cal Speed, Tucson, Phoenix, and Sonoma. And simply it's because those are the only tracks that have the weather and the infrastructure that can handle us, right? And all the other stuff, right? When people ask, why do you go here? Why do you go here? I don't understand, right? It's because people that don't understand what all of us do that do this job, right? You have to make sure there's an airport close. We can't be at a place where the airport's 3 hours away. We can't be at a place where there's one restaurant in town and 2 Motel 6s, and one's really about a 4.5, right? I mean, you have to have stuff, right? So those 4 tracks, especially the time of year that we go, people are like, somebody asked me a couple years ago, you should go to Grand Junction. Yeah, Grand Junction in March or in April is probably pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, true.
For snow racing, yeah.
Yeah. We don't have if we got some studded tires, it'd be great, right?
Yeah, there's lots of things that push you to certain ways and it just tightens things down. And again, Cal Speed's gone, but you've got Tucson, still one of the single best racetracks in the country. The racing's up. It is always so good to call races there. Then you go to Phoenix, which is a fantastic challenge and a great club to work with. And of course, Sonoma, as you always say, probably one of the best views from a paddock in all of motorsports or all of karting. So again, 3 great venues, and you lead off with Tucson, which should be great.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone there for so many years. I mean, Charlie is good to us. You know, and like you said, the track race is great. David doesn't like it so much because he has to walk up and down those stairs 100 times a day.
He needs the exercise.
Gets his steps in. We always have some good restaurants to go to, so that's always a plus.
Very true. Very true.
But yeah, it's good that at least my program's not big enough, you know, for plus or minus, but I don't need to go to a UMC. I don't need a NOLA. I don't need a paddock the size of, you know, 18 football fields, right? So those 4 tracks, RIP Cal Speed, you know, always fit the bill. Now, hopefully, you know, as this new track gets built out in Southern California, we'll have another place to go, but we'll just watch how that progress goes because it's been a long process for them to get going, right?
Indeed. Got a little shout out for PKRA there, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, my mouse. There we go.
There you go. Alex Williams says PKRA in the house. Awesome. Phil Pignataro coming in as well. What's up, Phil? I like it. Phil, of course, performing well over at the Tilson World Cup. I think T4 World Cup. Is that what they called it?
He did. It was 5th. Is that right?
I was watching the whole thing while I was at the CKNA Grand Nationals in Newcastle during one of my 2-hour breaks. I watched the entire final for Phil. It was good. He did a great job over there. Tremendous job.
No, it's great. I mean, there's so much great stuff, right? The other day, well, it was Labor Day weekend, but you know, I popped on the TV. I clicked on YouTube TV, and they had the Masters World Championship there at Le Mans. I was watching Musser and Kuyala race. I'm sitting there. Benny actually came up. Benny and his wife came up and visited. So we're sitting here drinking coffee, watching KZ racing on YouTube TV. It was fantastic.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. All right, listen, we talked all about the Challenge of the Americas again into the 16th year. Tucson, Phoenix, Sonoma. Excitement around the OK-N class and the ROK Shifter Junior class. 2 different kind of groups of drivers going to be super excited, right? Some of those juniors looking to do something different. And again, potentially some of the guys that would be maybe at the forefront of the 125cc tag racing, like with an opportunity to, hey, listen, this is my shot to get back to some real pure racing. Let's go away from that. Last year we had a chance, all 3 of us and the entire challenge crew was up at Pat's Acres for what was the California ROK Championship last year. Just a fantastic weekend. We had such a good time. Tons of people camping out at the racetrack. It's a July event this year again. What do we know about that? Is it happening again this year? Can you give us any? I know it's what, October the 19th of 2022, but it's like 9 months away. But what are you thinking?
9 months away, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I talked to Chris Egger, and once again when all the other programs release their schedules, I mean, like there's a hierarchy, right? There's certain programs. Challenge of the Americas, Pro Tour, USPKS, ROK Cup, right? There's tiles. It's just how I build the paddock, right? I call it the tile and grout method, right? There's tiles you got to work around, and then other races are kind of the grout.
Yeah.
So I looked at everybody's program and went, man, there's a nice like big hole in July this year. So because the first year we were in July, last year we went to the end of June, and then it just worked out that it was towards the middle of July this year. So we're at that 14th, 15th weekend right in there. Yeah, who knows what the name's going to be? I mean, last year was the California ROK Championship, and we only had 1 race at Pat's Acres. So, I mean, maybe it doesn't really matter what we call it. I mean, I could have called it the Pat's Acres ROK Championship at that point. You know, I'm looking to maybe try
Cascade
another race
Rocks.
Cascade Rocks, Pop Rocks. So instead of Cascade Locks.
Right. See? Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. We talked about it on the way up there from the airport, remember?
We did. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
So something's going to happen for sure.
Oh, you know, that race is there. I reached out to Mike Shorn up here, who helps a lot of the pad holder stuff. And I said, hey, as you're working on your schedule, just please, I've dropped this date here because it fits with everything else. If we could not have a conflict, that'd be great. I mean, I don't control their program. I just wanted to at least tell them that that's the race that I'm going to do up here. So he said he'd do his best. On the sprint side, the enduro side that they do there at the mercy of the big tracks. And, well,
yeah, whatever the dates are. Agreed.
So, but yeah, as I get more involved up here, I have to figure out how to navigate that. I mean, I don't know. People know I moved up to Idaho from Southern California, so I've been out to the local Kart Idaho track. I was at the Spud Cup every day.
Nice.
Hanging out.
How'd that go?
It's a great event. I mean, it's obviously it's not big as CKNA, but I mean they had about 100, I think, just under 100.
That's awesome.
And Travis, that owns the track, runs the program, did a lot of interesting stuff too, like a trophy dash and some other things, because he raced karts his whole life, and then he went to the car world pretty young, right? So whether it was dirt or asphalt, so he has a lot of that
different ideas, kind
of background and ideas. So it's fun, but it was fun because Greg Welch came over with a team, right? He raced himself, so I had some challenge. I had some, just the guys Fleming was obviously there. The Heats who raced with me were there. I mean, so there were a lot of folks that, come to my races, that at least a handful. So it was fun to see them up here doing that too.
A shop all set up there now in Idaho. You ready to go? Your distribution center?
Yeah. I mean, I have my shop built. I mean, it's, I have a big parts room and engines along the wall on a shelf and tires on pallets. And, we ship, FedEx freight dropped off today, right? So, they're here probably 3 or 4 times a week, at least 2 or 3 times a week, and UPS goes out every day. So, we do what we do. At this point, it doesn't matter where you live, right? You just have to have a UPS account and an ability to store stuff in a computer. So, it's definitely where we want to be.
We've talked about challenge. We've talked about whatever you're going to call the Pat's Acres July race.
The Rob Howe not there race.
Listen. What have I got going again? What's that weekend? Do we know what that weekend is?
Yeah, your home
Toronto.
Home race.
That's right.
Toronto, yeah.
Honda Indy Toronto. Well, that's not going to.
It's the one time he doesn't board a plane, right?
That's very true. Yeah. I still have to stay downtown, but yeah. Let's talk. Let's have a. I know it's not really the primary topic here, but let's just give some thoughts about ROK Vegas. You guys are heading back to the Rio for that one. What are your thoughts? I know you're rolling out there in a couple of weeks, a little less than that, heading out to Vegas again.
No, this weekend, Kathy and I fly to Washington to go visit Grace at Parents Weekend, her first time I get to visit my daughter in college.
Yeah.
And then they come back, load the trailer, and I'm on the road from the 30th to the 7th. I don't run a team anymore. That's not what I do. I was going to have a couple like orphans with me, but they found teams to go with, which is fine. That's what the teams do. So I don't want to interfere with their business. I was just giving guys a place to hang out. So once again, I'll be the emotional support vehicle. A fully stocked trailer bar. If your driver pisses you off, you need to come hang out, I got a space for you. If your mechanic's pissing you off and you're old enough, you're welcome to come hang out too. The music will be on and I'll just be hanging out. We'll still have, obviously ROK brings their full parts truck and all this stuff. I still have my parts trailer because I'm in the paddock. So if somebody needs something in a hurry and they can't make it down, to the parts truck, I still have the same parts at the same prices there too. So that helps the dealer.
Maybe they just like your customer service better.
Here's a piston, here's a shot. It's pretty easy, right? I don't know why you would go anywhere else, really.
Why would you? Exactly that. It's like going to Costco and getting a $1 hot dog.
Spend
$1,000 and get a hot dog for $1.
Exactly, $1.59. But that's also the reason I go down there, because Idaho is one of these states where you can only buy booze at the state liquor store. So I'm going to stop at the Costco and fill up my trailer for the winter. So I gotta have the trailer.
I don't want any go-karts in there because it's full of boxes.
No.
Well, Andy, listen.
Now that I said that, I'll get arrested for transporting booze across state lines.
He's the bandit of Idaho.
That's it. Well, listen, we appreciate you joining us again, dude. This is it's exciting stuff. We don't hear many series obviously break away from the status quo, right? Obviously, Scoos has kind of had their program going. They obviously with the shifter stuff, they've had to deal with the evolution there. But for you to move to the OK-N category and this ROK Shifter Junior program, I think that's going to infuse a lot of excitement into the series this year. It's going to be something different for us when we get there, but I think everybody when they're there. There's going to be a bunch of kids that are going to get a chance to do shifter racing, and there's going to be a bunch of guys who are top line single speed guys getting a chance to drive direct drive again, which I think is badass.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm super excited about that. The other potential for growth in the program, which we never really talked about, was with CalSpeed closing and the K1 track potentially not opening. March early March is kind of their goal date, right? There's going to be a lot of folks that want to do some racing, in February.
I never thought about that really. The cow speed, there's gonna be nothing. There's gonna be nowhere to race.
Nowhere, right? Yeah. I mean, they're gonna go and support Adams and practice, or maybe Willow or Button Willow, whatever. That's fine. But if they want to race, the first race in our whole Southwest is February 3rd through 5th at Tucson.
At Tucson, 100% it is. That's exactly it. And you know what? Like, bring that Phil Pignataro thing up. I love this. We need to bring some of the old boys out.
Yeah.
It's Mike Geeson making a comeback. Whenever we need to see some of these single speed direct drive badasses come back out and play.
Joel Miller.
Joel's
Mike
busy.
Geeson.
Yeah, Geeson for sure.
Yeah.
That OK-N is 35 horsepower, racing at 341 pounds.
I didn't throw that out there. It's light. There's no starter. There's no battery.
Well, just think about like the X30 GP, right? We race at 355, right? Now take off a clutch drum, a flywheel, a starter, a Bendix, a battery, and all the electronic harness.
So you say 341 and 35 horsepower?
Yeah.
Wow. I was looking to say, man, I need to set up a test with somebody to do for the website.
Yeah.
I can't handle 35 horsepower.
You couldn't handle running alongside of the thing.
No, I couldn't. Don't throw me under the bus completely.
He's in shape now.
I'm getting in shape now. 100% I'm getting in shape.
I'm not saying you're in shape, but you're going to be the guy sitting you're going to be like a kid carter, like.
Hold on. Here's another one. Bring Alicia's up. Michael Valiente. We got to get Valiente back. We got to get Colby Jen, Jordy Vorath.
He raced with us at Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Michael came and raced with us at Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he was also at the Spud Cup. He raced with his son and a couple customers.
That's awesome. Yeah. Who else do we need to bring out? We need to drop some challenges here to get guys coming back out to do some stuff like this. This would be a lot of fun to watch.
Even though he's a Masters guy, I mean, this is a great category for a Matt Johnson.
Definitely
I
not Sean Beer.
Billy Cleveland.
Oh, come on.
Billy Cleveland.
You never know. It'd be fun to see a 65-year-old getting in that thing for sure, right?
Jake Drew. I'd like to see Jake Drew in one too.
Oh,
that'd be really good.
Yeah, good job, Dave Jimenez.
Yeah. Landon Yee.
Sure.
Landon Yee.
Get a track magic out there, right?
Oh, my goodness. They did. Yeah, we got him.
That would be good. No,
right. And obviously the young kids. I mean, Jesus Vasquez Jr. They've committed. Blake Nash. I mean, there's definitely some. I call them kids, but they are kids. I mean, even though Blake's 18. But
hold on, yeah. Here, Scott, David Shorn, Scotty Holmbo. Let's do that. He has to come with a Swiss Hutless though, and with a CMC engine. His dad's got to build the motor.
Well, yeah, for sure. Who makes the Swiss Hutless now?
What's that?
Who makes the Swiss Hutless now?
I don't even know. Do they still?
They still have them.
Oh, does Burrell make them now?
All right. Just like. The Gillard is made by OTK.
Yeah. David, who was the guy that came over and won the Stars of Karting race at Newcastle on a Swiss Hutless? I want to say his last name was like Real or something like that.
No, Michael something.
Yeah, Real, like R.
Was it
YALL?
Real deal. I think maybe that's what that was a cover. Hold on.
Caleb Lanuski.
Devon Sandine.
Devon Sandine.
Sandine.
True. Yeah. Old school. We're bringing up old names from them.
Old names, but what we all forget is we remember them at 16. They're all in their 30s now. I mean,
trust me, I have to race against them in Masters now. I get it.
Yeah.
The Masters kids are all guys that we covered when they were cadets.
Cadets. Exactly. I know. That's the worst part, right? You remember, I mean, you look over and you're racing, you remember these kids at 8 years old and all of a sudden they're next to you on the Masters grid. And you're like,
exactly that. God. Anyways, a lot of exciting stuff for sure. As we said, folks, again, with the Challenge of the Americas, the July event, we had so much fun up at Pat's Acres. If that's an event you can get to that weekend, that 14th, 15th weekend, you're 100% going to enjoy that one for sure. But again, Andy, thank you so much for joining us, man. We're really excited to be back again for another year, the 16th edition of the Challenge of the Americas. And man, like you said, I never even thought about the fact that with Cal Speed shut down, there's Adams, there's Buttonwillow, there's not a lot of racing that people are going to be able to run. And that could, what do we get, 150 or more then, you think, at the first round?
Certainly possible.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some teams who are like, yeah, I normally come with 6 or 8. I'm trying to get to 12 to 14. Because nice. I mean, look, this is all what we do for a living, right? People need income. So if a team can't be at Cal Speed, 2 to 3 times a week, some of these guys, right?
They are indeed.
So, I mean, they need a place to come earn their living. And there's definitely come race with us.
I like
nice
it.
with it.
We're going to push that narrative because that's going to be a really good opportunity for guys to get out as well. Andy, thanks again for joining us, man. We do appreciate it. Enjoy yourself up in Idaho. Empty nesters. The countdown clock is on for Kathy to kick your ass out of the house. So I can't wait. You better have a bed, maybe a little cot or something over in the shop. That might be it.
No problem.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, David Cole, I'll tell you, exciting stuff. And, obviously Andy even coming up with more information. I really hadn't considered the fact that without CalSpeed there, everybody that went there throughout the week, January, February, all the stuff they do, they're going to be dying for a wheel-to-wheel race. And that could mean that Tucson, let's put 40 guys at Tucson, right? Let's get the hit. Exactly. It's such a great racetrack. And it's long enough that you could run 40, 50 guys if they all came out and wanted to play. I love that. First weekend of February.
Yeah, no, the track is capable of running full fields without a doubt. The paddock is large enough. We might have to squeeze in, certain tents together or trailers together. But we've had big events there, and there's no problem getting up to that 150 mark, which would be unbelievable. Again, a great kickstart. And again, this new category with OK-N, people are going to be all interested in it. I'm sure people are waiting, trying to figure out when they can get the engines and start working on it, along with the the ROK Junior shifter. That's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting to see how many kids have done some practice starts, how many haven't. The other thing too is, are we going to run OK-N up at Pat's Acres for that Pat's Acres weekend?
That's a good idea.
There's a lot of old ICA drivers up that way.
That's true.
Maybe we can get Mike Rollison even to race that.
I wonder. Well, this is the interesting thing. This feels like it's like a FOMO thing for us. It's gonna be one of those deals where all it takes is a bit of momentum. Is there gonna be 6 guys in OK-N, or is there gonna be 12? Because if there's 12, is there 16? Is there 20? It's the same thing with the shifter category, right? If everybody's friends getting a shifter cart and going shifter cart racing, we may see a bunch of kids doing double duty, right? They may run the VLR Junior, and they may run ROK Junior, Shifter Junior. So that's an opportunity.
I think the junior shifter program is kind of going to slowly grow, because as you get, again, kids are different at different ages in terms of drivability and skill level and knowledge, and to be able to do it, because there are probably going to be some 12-year-olds that could handle it, but there's going to be some that are like, why did you make that choice? But, that's part of growing up. And that's the crazy part of watching junior racing, because again, some kids are great at 12, but some kids get better as they get older. So you just don't know. But again, the 100cc categories are going to be big, and the shifter cart categories are going to be big. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to, we love going to Tucson. Everything's right there. And again, I wanted to throw out the idea of maybe running it the opposite direction, but I think the way everything kind of flows, I think it's better to run it in that standard direction.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Folks, thank you so much for joining us for what was the 60th episode of our Face2Face show. We have a bunch of them lined up. As David said, there's going to be a ton of content coming out here, of course, on YouTube and Facebook. We have our 2 outlet preview shows for the Supernats coming up. We have a bunch more Face2Face lined up as well. Then, of course, all this Supercarts USA Super Nationals preview stuff that we have happening as well. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of content coming. We do appreciate you tuning in. And as you always know, this will get turned into a podcast on the eKarting Radio Network or on the podcast platforms as well. David will get that dialed in a little bit later on. But otherwise, we got a bunch of guys tuning in here. We appreciate that. Great to hear from comments as well. Big thank you to Andy Seesemann, for being part of the action here once again. He's a favorite guest of ours here. And, of course, David and I looking forward to heading to Tucson once again for another edition of the challenge. David, of course, you'll get a chance as well to have another In-N-Out burger. Is that your first In-N-Out burger of 2023? Of 2023,
it will be for 23. Yeah, so Vegas will be my last. Yes, and then the first one will be in Tucson. So I can't wait. It's been a while. It's been since Spring Nationals in June. So it's been a while.
Well, see, with my new nutrition and fitness program, I have not had anything like that either. So I'll be looking forward to that come February.
There you go.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do appreciate it. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.